Both of your parents are on our side. Besides, they won't be around much longer anyway." At those words, my hands froze. "Seriously, are you going to do it?" "Do it?" That sounds so sinister. "It's an accident, an accident." My elder son and his wife were discussing so intently that they didn't even notice I was there. Then, the wife of my younger son said to me, "Call the police right now." At her words, I hastily called the police. My name is Kathy, and I turned 71 last month. I have spent 50 years as a homemaker with my husband. Thankfully, it's been a joyful journey. We have been blessed with 2 sons. It seems ordinary, but I think it's truly a blessing. My husband John is the second-generation owner of a small wholesale company. His father founded the company, and John took over 20 years ago. Thanks to our loyal customers, the business is thriving. Now my sons are also working for his company, each as managing directors. My elder son, Tom, graduated from a prestigious domestic university. He has always been an excellent student, earning praise from his classmates' mothers. Every time I attended a school event, I was so proud. He continued to study diligently through college and graduated with first-class honors. Afterward, he joined the company that was then managed by his grandfather as president. Although he was overly serious and had trouble interacting with women, which was a worry. About 10 years ago, he brought home a lovely woman a year his junior. From what I heard, she didn't come from a very wealthy family, but she always smiled at me and never forgot to bring a gift on my birthday. Living nearby, she would often say, "I made too much food," and bring over some of her cooking. She seemed like a smart, kind, and considerate woman. Although they haven't been blessed with children, I have always adored this couple. The problem is with my younger son. My younger son, Chris, wasn't as academically inclined as Tom. However, he was popular with girls and constantly brought different girls around during his university days. He barely passed his courses and managed to graduate. But he rebelled against joining the family business and got a job at a regular company instead. There he met Katie, a woman of the same age, and they got married. Unlike Tom's wife, Jessica, Katie was unfriendly and kept her interactions with us to a minimum. She was proper, always gave us gifts on anniversaries, and visited during long holidays. However, it seemed she preferred to keep a distance from us. She even bought an apartment in the next town over, not wanting to live too close to our home. Most of all, her detached manner of speaking made her hard to warm up to. After working for about 10 years, Chris resigned and joined my husband's company. However, his free-spirited nature, both John and Tom are having a tough time dealing with it. Even so, as a parent, I still find my sons endearing. I hope that both Tom and Chris will continue to work hard for the company in the future. One day, I went shopping alone. Spring is just around the corner. I was looking for an outfit to wear for the company's upcoming ceremony. Though I'm officially a homemaker, I'm also nominally a board member. I rarely go to the office, but I do some work from home, and preparing gifts for clients and socializing with their wives are among my duties. One of my annual duties is attending the ceremony. I headed to my favorite clothing store in the department store. That's when I saw a figure that looked familiar. Jessica. She looked similar. But no, she was walking with a man. Tom is at work. Thinking it must be someone else, I was still curious about the two of them. They entered a luxury brand store. I felt relieved. I knew I had the wrong person. Jessica is supposed to be frugal. I have never seen her with branded items before, and both Tom's and Chris's salaries are no different from ordinary executives. They probably couldn't afford luxury brands except maybe on special occasions. Tom wouldn't say so, but Chris has complained to his father several times, saying, "The pay is too low, I can't buy anything." I should have never switched jobs. With a child, Chris probably has even less financial leeway. Anyway, it's unlikely for Jessica, a full-time homemaker, to be visiting such a high-end brand store. I felt a bit silly for my misunderstanding. Finding the situation somewhat funny, I left the place. And then, our company held the ceremony. This year, we welcomed 1 mid-career hire and 3 new graduates. It's not a very large company, but we hire about this many employees every year. This year's hires were all from the countryside. And I hope they will stay with us for a long time as I watched the ceremony conclude without incident. The real issue came afterward. Heading to the president's office, I found Chris and John arguing. "Something's off, Dad. You must be up to something." Chris was red-faced and confronting John aggressively. Tom was nervously trying to calm Chris down. "What's going on?" I asked, alarmed. "The accounts are all wrong," Chris yelled. "The accounts?" I had no idea what he was talking about. I asked for more details. Chris insisted that there was something suspicious about the numbers. "You're embezzling, aren't you?" John shouted back. "Don't be stupid. That's why these clueless second-generation presidents." "What do you mean by that?" The argument between John and Chris seemed to escalate. "Enough." At that moment, Tom's angry voice filled the room. "I'll look into the numbers. Both of you, cool it down. We shouldn't have discussions like this at the company, it could unsettle other employees." Tom said this to them. Indeed, the elder son is reliable. I was impressed by Tom's intervention. Both John and Chris fell silent at his words. Leaving it to Tom gives me peace of mind. A few days later, Tom told John. There was nothing suspicious in the books. However, there was one case of a double payment. I've contacted the party involved. And they've agreed to apply it to next month's account. It was probably that which made Chris suspicious. It's good he noticed, it helped us catch the mistake. John was impressed by Tom's words. Indeed, Tom's intelligence in handling misunderstandings is commendable. I sometimes wonder how I ended up with such an outstanding son. After the busyness of April and this parent-child fight settled down, John and I came to dinner. It had been a while since we dined just the two of us. We splurged a little, opting for a course meal at the region's top luxury French restaurant, which had earned a Michelin star. The glittering meal was a delight to behold. Soon, it'd be nice if Tom and Chris could afford to bring their families to a place like this. We should think about their salaries. I mentioned to John while enjoying our meal. Well, maybe for Tom, but it's still too soon for Chris. John replied. But Chris has 3 kids, and he keeps saying his salary is too low. If he worked as hard as Tom, I'd consider it. John said, laughing off the conversation. Oh, come on. I replied, somewhat exasperated. After enjoying all the courses, our stomachs were nearly full. The dessert will be served last, said the waiter, who then took our drink orders and left. John also seemed satisfied as he sipped his coffee. Oh, a call. I'll be right back. Hurry back, the dessert will be here soon. John checked his phone and stood up. Left alone, I sipped my coffee in the quiet room. A quiet atmosphere. I can't help but hear the voices coming from next door. Come on. The voice was loud. At the same time, it sounded familiar. Calm down. I'm just saying let's wait and see. It was Tom. The earlier voice must have been Jessica. I wondered if they were here celebrating an anniversary or something today. Realizing they were coincidentally in the next room made me happy. I decided to wait for John to return so we could greet them together. They would surely be surprised to see us here. I waited quietly for John. I hadn't intended to eavesdrop, but the familiar voices of the two were clearly audible. What good will waiting do? I didn't expect Chris to notice. Well, not just audible, their voices were quite loud. Fortunately, this room was the second to last at the back. Tom's and Jessica's voices, emanating from the deepest room, shouldn't reach anywhere but here. It's fine since it's us, but if it were someone else, it would certainly be troublesome. I thought I had to tell them to be careful. However, what I would hear next made any caution irrelevant. It's fine. Your parents are on our side. Besides, they won't be around much longer anyway. At those words, my hand stopped moving. Really, are you going to do it? Going to do it? That sounds so sinister. It's an accident, an accident. They were talking so earnestly that they didn't realize I was here, or that their voices could be heard in the next room. More importantly, the money. You can skim off more, can't you? Last time I managed to pass off the double payment, but what should I say if Chris catches on next time? I looked up and froze. I didn't want to think about it. Tom had always been so serious and trustworthy. But listening to this conversation turned my face pale. I was certain of it. The reason Chris and John had been arguing after the ceremony, it was because of these two. They had been embezzling money from the company. Trembling, I called John. But he didn't answer, maybe he was still on another call. I needed someone reliable, so I dialed again. Hello? This person answered immediately. Chris? Where are you? Can you come here now? It was my younger son, Chris. He must have sensed the urgency in my voice. He said he'd come right away and hung up. Within just 5 minutes, John arrived with Chris and his wife, Katie. It seems they met outside. Apparently, he told them I had called for them. Kathy, what's going on? Chris said you called him. John began, but I silently shushed him by placing a finger to my lips. The ice cream that had arrived while he was on the phone was already melting. I quietly pointed to the room next door. The three of them exchanged looks. They sat down quietly, and we all focused on the voices coming from the next room. I had been listening alone to the horrifying conversation while John was away. And even as time passed, they continued their discussion. The conversation was only interrupted when the waiter brought their meals. Then it resumed. The betrayal by Tom and the content of their conversation was making me feel ill. Jessica? Katie muttered softly. Now John, Chris, and Katie could hear and understand who was next door. So, use the daffodils, right? It's like those accidents where people mistake them for chives. Jessica's voice was clear. The three of them hadn't fully grasped the situation yet. At least she'll be hospitalized for a while. If we're lucky, there might even be a funeral. So, we need to make sure the embezzlement isn't discovered until then. Chris let out a soft huh in disbelief. So, we might as well wait and see, right? Tom's voice was also heard. This conversation had been repeating for a while now. No way. We can't let the money run out. Jessica responded to him. If we get caught, they won't pass the company on to me. It's impossible we'll get caught. Besides, it'll be over before that happens, right? She must have thought their conversation was serious. Katie quickly operated her phone to start the voice recorder. John remained silent, saying nothing. Chris was trembling with rage. So, using daffodils before getting caught. That's why they were planted in the garden. Yes, exactly. I've also been preparing meals and sending them over. Since they like my cooking, they won't suspect if it tastes a bit off. They'll just think I made a mistake. I understood their plans and their hidden faces all too well now. What should it be? Maybe a chive omelet? They'll need to eat plenty. I wonder how much insurance they have on them? Jessica's voice was cheery, followed by loud laughter. Knowing Dad, he's definitely got a hefty policy. Finally, I might become the president. It was worth obeying them all this time. Tom's voice was triumphant. Angered, Chris stood up. John said nothing to stop him. Stop. It was Katie who intervened. Why? I asked her, incredulously. She is unfeeling. Perhaps she feels detached because she has never had a close relationship with us. But Katie replied calmly. If we storm in now, it'll just play into their hands. They'd likely convince you guys. John and I fell silent. So what should we do? They're planning to poison Mom and Dad. Chris exclaimed. Katie responded. It's okay. I've got evidence. So please, call the police right away. I hesitated. Calling the police seemed like an extreme step. This is a clear case of embezzlement, and they are putting you two in danger. It's a crime. If we don't act, you might. Katie's words made me realize the gravity of the situation. We could be in real danger. The thought made me shudder. I hurriedly called the police. Katie spoke to the restaurant staff, arranging for them to slow down the service of the meal to prevent the two from leaving. And she also apologized for the inconvenience. Without her, Chris and John, driven by anger, might have barged into the next room, and I, drained of courage, might have let the two of them go unpunished. Soon, the sound of a police siren was heard. Katie went outside to guide the officers. She instructed us to stay in the room and wait, as we three wouldn't be able to remain calm. I could hear Katie and the police officers' voices. Then they opened their room. "What is this about?" Jessica's voice could be heard. "Katie." And it seems they both noticed Katie. "Tom, Jessica, I've listened to your conversation and thought it necessary to call the police. It would be better to discuss this at the police station to avoid causing any trouble here." Katie's voice, usually so calm, sounded incredibly reliable now. "What are you talking about? We were just having a normal conversation." "Exactly. Imagine what my in-laws would say if they knew about this. They seem to think Katie did this on her own." They started to protest loudly, bringing us into the argument. "So, you're calling the cops on Tom just because Chris couldn't become the president? Don't take it out on him." Jessica said that. Upon hearing this, John stood up. "Dad." Chris also looked at him. The confrontation was still ongoing in the next room. "Let's move on," Katie said. Following that, "Could we ask you to come with us voluntarily?" A police officer asks them. "Voluntarily? No. I won't go. I haven't done anything wrong," Jessica declared. "Yeah, that's right. There's no need to go." Tom's voice was also heard. "Is that so? I thought you might want to give an explanation." "Well, we are going to the police station now to file a complaint." "Shall we go?" Katie spoke calmly. She must have called the police over. It seemed like they had no intention of reflecting on their actions. "Even if it's just us, we need to go to the police," I thought as I got up. I stumbled a bit. Chris supported me. "Mom, are you okay?" "Yes." Chris had been a handful, but he had become very dependable. We left the room. In the hallway, Katie is speaking to someone in the next room, and the police are present. Probably, Tom and Jessica are further inside. "Mom, are you here?" Our voices must have reached Tom, who then shouted. They must have just realized we were there. His voice sounded frantic. "If you want to make excuses, it might be better to come with us. Next time, the officers might come with a warrant to pick you two up." Katie continued calmly. The two of them seemed to stand up at her words. I had completely forgotten about it, but Katie had settled the bill. Thus, Tom and Jessica were taken to the police station in a police car. We followed in our car. Upon reaching the police station, Jessica, who had arrived first, was saying, "It's a misunderstanding." Tom was complaining to the police, "It's a misunderstanding by my sister-in-law." Their voices could be heard all the way outside. Another officer led us to a different room. There, I told them everything I had heard earlier. He had been embezzling company funds. And he was preparing to serve us daffodils, presumably to harm us. As I spoke, the frustration overwhelmed me and I broke down crying. The police officer was very considerate towards me. John put his arm around my shoulder. "Please look into the details of the damage to the company tomorrow and file another damage report summarizing the acts of embezzlement and the amount of damage." Chris responded to the police officer's statement. "What I can't forgive is their attempt to put my husband's parents in danger," Katie said firmly. I was touched that she was so angry on our behalf. The police officer explained. Since no action was taken, they cannot arrest for attempted crimes. However, it seems they could be arrested on conspiracy charges based on a recording of their conversation that Katie had made. They had actually prepared the daffodils as poison and had been providing us meals to lower our guard up until now. The photos I had taken of Jessica's cooking also turned out to be evidence. I didn't intend for them to be used like this, but it's interesting how they ended up being useful. Talking with the police and hearing Katie's voice, my sadness was gradually replaced by rising anger. They must be arrested and made to reflect on their actions. But more than that, I felt increasingly betrayed by my elder son and his wife, whom we had cherished and loved. I thought they deserved to see hell. I was terrified by my own thoughts. As a parent, thinking this way might mean I am failing. But perhaps as a parent, it's natural to feel this way. Katie and Chris decided it would be best if we didn't see Tom and Jessica. John was too angry to even consider seeing them, and I feared I might forgive them if I saw their faces. That's not true. I'm quite angry too. Yet, it's also true that I might forgive them if they apologized. We left the rest to Chris and Katie and went home. It seems that Katie's mother came to visit, and the grandchildren were left with her. That's why she told us not to worry and to rest. I was very grateful for that. The next day, the police contacted us. It seems the two of them denied everything. However, Chris quickly uncovered the facts and amounts related to the embezzlement. Unbelievably, starting from their first year of marriage, over the past 10 years, they had embezzled nearly $200,000. Taking a few thousand each month and sometimes even larger amounts. Hearing this made everything go dark before my eyes. To think I had been deceived for so long. Katie, seeing that I was incapacitated, came over to help with the household and liaise with the police. Apparently, their children continued to be looked after by her mother. I feel terrible for causing such inconvenience to my grandchildren. Chris consulted with the police and filed a criminal complaint. This would lead to at least Tom's arrest. I felt a mixture of relief and regret, but thanks to Katie, I managed not to lose myself. Additionally, both were arrested for conspiracy. The planted daffodils and Katie's recorder served as undeniable evidence. They maintained their innocence. Showing no signs of remorse, it seemed. Embezzlement is a criminal matter, and Chris has filed charges against Tom and Jessica. It turns out Jessica had been squandering the embezzled money on a nightclub. Did Tom know about this? If he did, he's a complete fool. During the trial, the bartender was called as a witness. She was flaunting because her husband was going to be the next president. I seriously had no idea the money was embezzled. And I had no feelings for her beyond that of a customer. She was just a big spender. Jessica lost her composure at his words. Shane. Didn't you say you wanted to marry me? I supported your sales, didn't I? Jessica shouted. What are you talking about, Jessica? Tom also yelled. No, seriously, give me a break. You know that's just sales talk. That's just not possible. He flatly dismissed Jessica. Good for her. I almost laughed out loud. It seems Tom was unaware of it too. Apparently, he heard that she had been sending money to her not-so-wealthy family home. Poor guy, caught by such a foolish woman. In the end, both were found guilty. Jessica ended up being publicly rejected by her beloved bartender in front of everyone. Katie and Chris were laughing out loud after the trial ended. Truly, what goes around comes around. The woman I saw in the brand store was probably Jessica. I should have realized it then, but well, all's well that ends well. The two were also charged with conspiracy. With all the evidence lined up, their excuses didn't hold up, and of course, they were found guilty. Though they received suspended sentences for the conspiracy, they were sentenced to actual prison time for embezzlement. Tom cried and apologized to me. But I no longer felt any inclination to forgive him. He was fired from the company. All insurance benefits were transferred to Chris as the beneficiary. John clearly announced that Chris would be his successor. Jobless Tom ended up divorcing Jessica while in prison. It was truly a relief that he was rid of such a woman. I have no intention of associating with Tom anymore, but the blood relation cannot be cut. The police said that relatives should support him to prevent reoffending, but Tom is an adult, and that woman is gone. Without needing to rely on his aging parents, he will surely manage to live on his own. Trust does not return so easily. I doubt I will ever trust Tom again until I die. Afterward, Chris firmly took over John's job as the successor. Katie really helped us a lot. Without her, this matter might not have been resolved. I went to Katie's house to thank her. Grandma. My grandchildren happily ran towards me. While apologizing for the mess, Katie led me into the living room, saying, "I'm sorry it's so cluttered." Due to the distance, I seldom visited Chris's house. It had been a while, but the house was so tidy it didn't seem cluttered at all. I was delighted to see a picture frame displayed with a photo of our 3 grandchildren, John and me, taken some time ago. "Katie, thank you so much for everything," I said as I expressed my gratitude. "Oh, I haven't done anything special, just what needed to be done." Katie, as always, spoke in her usual calm and collected manner. "Actually, I've always found you a bit intimidating. You don't try to get too close to us, do you?" "So?" I muttered quietly. "I was aware that you felt that way. But that's okay," Katie responded. "I truly care about both of you. If I allowed my personal feelings to get involved, it might lead to uncomfortable feelings. That's why I think maintaining a certain distance is important, to sincerely care for you." Her words deeply impressed me. Jessica always tried to ingratiate herself with me, and I was deceived and fond of her because of that. But I was truly foolish not to have recognized the genuine care Katie had for us. "Grandma, look. A present," my youngest grandchild, April, said as she handed me an art creation. "Before you came, Mom and I made this. When I said I wanted to make a present for you, she taught me how. I cherished it deeply." "Oh, April, thank you. I'm very happy. I'll treasure this." My words seemed to make April happy too. "I'm glad Chris married Katie. With her around, Chris and the grandchildren will be all right." "Katie, thank you truly. I look forward to continuing our relationship." As I spoke, April looked at me curiously and, catching my mood, smiled brightly.